Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my 2023-2024 NFL Wildcard Weekend predictions. Well, for the Fanatic this week to end the regular season, I am very happy to say I ended the regular season on a high note. I had a winning record against the spread and straight up. And so I'm very happy about that. So to end the season for the last 16 games, I went against the spread 9-7, and straight up I went 11-5. That equals 56.3% against the spread. And straight up I went 11-5, which equals 68.8% straight up. Very thrilled about that. It's nice to have two double-digit weeks to end the year, going 24-8 over the last 32 games. That equals 75% for the last 2 weeks. That's great. It put my against the spread and straight up records in the green, so I am very thrilled about that. That now for overall for the regular season, I will have my postseason records as well added as well. For now, but overall through 272 games, this 2023 to 2024 NFL season. I went 133 and 132 against the spread with 7 pushes. And straight up for the year, I went 167 and 105 straight up. That equals 50.2% or 50.02% against the spread. And straight up, I went 61.4% straight up. So I will gladly take those records. I am thrilled. Very, very rarely do I get to say I was a 500 against the spread. If you took my against the spread records through the whole year, you made a slight bit of money. Very tiny, but slight bit of money. So I'm glad that for everybody out there, if you took all my advice, congratulations, you made a little bit of money. I hope you took somebody else's advice, because there were plenty of other prognosticators on spreads that did a much better job than I did. But I will gladly take having an above 500 record with 7 pushes involved. And the 61.4% straight up, I will take that. It is not usually where I want to be. I'm usually about 62, 63% straight up. So a little disappointing, a little under my usual average for the year, but still 62 games above 500 with 13 games to go. I will gladly hope that I can reach that, go on a great postseason run here to get my overall record up for the rest of the year. And I just want to say for everybody out there, the videos will likely come out for the rest of the year on Mondays or Tuesdays. Next week I have something to do, so the video for the divisional round might come out Monday, but it probably will come out Tuesday if I'm lucky. It might come out Monday or Tuesday, so just wanted to put that out there for everybody. But I'm glad about that. But what a wild season it's been in the NFL. The Texans, what a story for them. Unbelievable story from having the number 2 overall pick and drafting C.J. Stroud to getting the 5th head coach, rookie quarterback duo into the playoffs. C.J. Stroud threw for the 3rd most passing yards by any rookie quarterback, and the Houston Texans for the first time in about 5 years. For the first time in 5 years, they have genuinely moved forward and are looking up in a very positive direction. And they have one of the 5 best cap situations with cap space moving forward. So next year could be a huge year for the improvement of the Texans. I'm very thrilled about that. So that's been a big story this year. The rise of Jordan Love. Jordan Love has played very good football. The Green Bay Packers are the youngest team in NFL history in terms of average age for all their players to make the playoffs. I thought, he's put himself with this playoff victory in the firm position of the quarterback for the Packers moving forward, full stop. They don't have to worry about drafting one or bringing in a veteran. They could still bring in a veteran for a backup, because I think Sean Clifford's the backup. Again, it's not that important, but I would probably want something better if Jordan Love did get hurt. But, what a job for the Packers. A 17-9 win over the Bears. And it still shows the Green Bay Packers still own the Chicago Bears in a way. Though for the Bears, they have their own questions about Justin Fields, who looked like he just basically told the media, peace out Chicago, peace out Girl Scout to Chicago. And that is a problem in itself, especially if they're going to keep Eberflus, because they're going to keep Eberflus, but Fields is already out. That's kind of a weird mix that will probably not end well for the Bears, and well for Eberflus with all the expectations that's put on. So there's that. You look at a lot of the other games and seasons. The Chiefs getting an 11-win season in one of the ugliest ways possible. The Chiefs and Eagles having the same record. The Eagles going from a 10-1 start to an 11-6 collapse. And it feels very much so like last year, even though I know the Cowboys, yesterday kicked the tar out of the Commanders, but it feels very much like last year, except a little bit worse, to where like the Eagles are in very much for a lot of people's trouble of missing or going one and done in the postseason. And I think that will bring a lot of questions into what the future holds for the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward. But the way they looked against the Giants the other day was just abysmal. It was lifeless. It essentially, after AJ went down, I thought they should have just sat everybody there. Jalen dislocated his finger, but I just read it's not a fracture. So that's a good thing. But this is a collapse that I don't honestly know. It was kind of precursor to the other few weeks when they were down double digits in the half and they were going to make comebacks. But this time around, it's ugly. It's awkward. I feel bad for the franchise. It's not great. There was that. That's been a big story. The Rams, what a turnaround for them. After having one of the biggest cap hits, taking all the dead cap hit for all the cuts and trades they've made, they hit it really well out of the draft. Puka Nacua, who set the rookie record for touchdowns, for receptions and yards. Kobe Turner, Byron Young have been fantastic. Cooper Kupp was solid. Matthew Stafford has had a good, last 5-6 weeks of football. He started rolling a bit more. I was happy about that. And the Rams, look, they are a dangerous playoff team. And with how the playoffs set up, what a great story for Matt Stafford to be able to go back to his original drafting place to play the Lions in their first home playoff game since 1993. It's downright cool. It's downright eerie how Hollywoody, no pun intended, for the Rams, how that game's going to go. But, that was a great story. You look at the Cardinals and Seahawks. I just want to say for everybody, okay, and I'll get into my picks here, that Seattle and Pittsburgh to me, and I'm just providing an opinion here, Pete Carroll and Mike Tomlin, excellent coaches. Great all-time coaches, great defensive coaches, Hall of Fame coaches you could argue, and Pete's definitely the best of his franchises, and Mike Tomlin will have a case to be the best for his franchise, the Steelers, though I probably would call him second behind Chuck Noll. No offense to Tomlin. They're Tomlin stands. But the problem the Seahawks and the Steelers both have, in my opinion, is that they're stuck to where Mike Tomlin got lucky this year playing Mason Rudolph, having Mason Rudolph play 3 good games in a row, or 3 solid games in a row. He got to play the Ravens backups on Saturday, so I think that has to add a little context. But they got in the playoffs, and they're probably going to be one and done against the Bills, in my opinion. Okay, the Seahawks last year, they got hot at the end, made it in off of Jason Myers' field goal, and they got in at 9-8, and they were one and done in the playoffs of the 49ers. There is a common factor there to me, to where I just feel like every time this happens for the Steelers and Seahawks, it's just going to be about the same for those teams. And you don't fire those coaches, but objectively think about Mike Tomlin here. If he wasn't part of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and would he still have a job? That I'm not so sure of, because I think there's a wall there with Pickett or whoever, what veteran or whatever they draft the quarterback. There has to be a way to break offensively to move forward. And also the TJ Watt injury doesn't help either. He has the hyperextended knee, or the MCL sprain. He's going to be out at least 2 weeks. So I don't think the Steelers are going to have to worry about him playing. But, it was just food for thought. But that was nuts. The Falcons, and of course today is accountability / Black Monday. It is one of those aspects to where when you look at, the 5 coaching jobs that are open, the Panthers was already open, the Chargers were already open, the Raiders were already open, and the Commanders and the Falcons. The Falcons wasted no time at all, firing Arthur Smith 3 minutes in the accountability Monday. And so, and for the Fanatics' opinion, how you rank the jobs, Chargers is number 1. Commanders is number 2. Falcons is number 3. I would do then the Raiders are 4. and the Panthers are 5. If you add Belichick and the Patriots is still open, and the Titans, you still put the Panthers at the bottom, but I probably would then go 5 would be, so it'd probably be still 4 Raiders, 5 Patriots, 6 Titans, 7 Panthers. Okay, so I think those 7 jobs that are open, that's how I'd rank them. I think the Chargers, the only problem they have is the cap space, but you can pretty much play the shell game with that. And, I think that's the best one. The Commanders have the number 2 overall pick and the most cap space going into next year, so they can spend money and build around a young quarterback. The Falcons have a good roster and a more winnable division. That's the selling point for Atlanta, that the division, even with the Bucs winning it, it's not a runaway. And then, of course, then you would have the Raiders with a good amount of cap space, but they have some veteran players, and they have the whole dilemma of Jim Harbaugh on one hand, Antonio Pierce on the other. Do you listen to the resume or the stats or the players and that whole dynamic? Then you'd have New England at 5. They have the number 3 overall pick and a bunch of cap space. And then 6 would be the Titans, because you would have to try to let Will Levis have something, and the Panthers just a horrible owner in a horrible situation. So that's how you get your 7 there. But yeah, so... Alright, but those are my quick thoughts on the season. I'll probably talk about some things in my wrap-up video at the end. But let me get into my wildcard weekend predictions for everybody. So, on Saturday, in the order, on NBC/Peacock, first game, when the Cleveland Browns, the 5-seeded Cleveland Browns, travel to Houston to take on the 4-seeded Houston Texans. The Cleveland Browns are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Cleveland here minus 2.5, and Cleveland straight up. Then on Saturday night, exclusively on the Peacock app, and I know for a lot of people, I have Peacock for different reasons. I'm a wrestling fan, so I had it for the WWE Network, for the WWE sense. So, I know for a lot of people, Peacock, it's the only exclusive Peacock game. I understand the gripe with it. There are probably, some other alternative ways that you can find it, or if you have friends, or just, different ways, but, just putting it out there. But when the 6-seeded Miami Dolphins travel to Kansas City to take on the number 3-seeded Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs here minus 3.5, and Kansas City straight up. And then on Sunday, the 3 Sunday games on Super Wildcard Weekend, when the 7-seeded Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Buffalo to take on the number 2-seeded Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are 10-point favorites in this game. Give me Buffalo here to win straight up, but I'm going to take Pittsburgh plus 10. Then the Saturday, and that's on CBS. Then the Sunday afternoon game on Fox, when the 7-seeded Green Bay Packers travel to Dallas, take on the number 2-seeded Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are 7.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Dallas here minus 7.5, and Dallas straight up. And then the Sunday night game, John Matthew Stafford's return to Detroit, when the 6-seeded Los Angeles Rams travel to Detroit to take on the number 3-seeded Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are 3-point favorites in this game. In my only outright pure upset of the week, I am taking the Los Angeles Rams here plus 3, and the Los Angeles Rams straight up to win. And then in the Monday night game on ESPN and ABC, when the number 5-seeded Philadelphia Eagles travel to Tampa Bay to take on the number 4-seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Philadelphia Eagles are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Philadelphia here minus 2.5, and Philadelphia straight up. All right, it's time for my quick thoughts on each game. The Cleveland Browns over the Houston Texans. This is a game to where when you look at this Cleveland and Houston game, I thought this game was going to be Jacksonville. And by the way, what an epic collapse for the Jags. Very quickly. What an epic collapse for the Jags. Go from 8-3 to 9-8. Last team to do that was the 08 Jets. Downright awful. The prince that was promised, William Lawrence. We'll have to have a conversation about where is his ceiling. And he's not even the best quarterback in his own division anymore. Hot take. But true. But to get back to the game, the Houston Texans are, this is a game to where they are the South champions. Nobody had that on their bingo card to begin the year. And I think this game is a lot harder for Cleveland. But in this type of game, I am just going to take the more experienced team and the more experienced quarterback. And that is Joe Flacco and the Browns. The Browns played the Texans just a couple weeks ago in Houston, but Stroud was out of the game, and Case Keenum got obliterated by the Browns defense. Again, the kicking situation is going to be very key for the Browns because they had Corey Bojorquez and Dustin Hopkins both had injuries, and again, they were rested last week for obvious reasons. And again, the Browns got blown out, but nobody really puts a lot of stock into that, in my opinion. But in this game, I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns here based on the better defense and the more experience of Flacco in that roster and Stefanski. Again, could the Houston Texans win this game? They absolutely could. Even though, again, Dalton Schultz, they only really have one legitimate weapon. If you put Denzel Ward on Nico Collins, because you watch that game on Saturday night, essentially it was the Nico Collins and Stroud show. Nobody besides Dalton who had a few nice catches and Andrew Beck who had the one touchdown in the back of the end zone on a very nice designed play by Bobby Slovis, who after this year and after next year, I think he'll be another one of those head coaching candidates because I think he's done a very nice job with Houston playing around C.J. Stroud, making C.J. Stroud much better than what people think he could be. But good for Slovis though through 1 year. But the Texans do not have that much of a phenomenal receiving core at this moment, and Brevin Jordan and you had Tank Dell who's out. You have just a lot of other John Mechie. You have all these receiving options. Noah Brown, who was out. It's just not there to where I feel like the Browns' defense is going to have to worry a lot. And they shut down the Texans' running game with Singletary and Pierce very quickly in their last game. I think they can do very, very much the same way. The Houston Texans' offensive lines have banged up for most of the year. They tried to, hammer it out. All right, I think Tunsil played, so he's going to give it a go. And even though I know Houston's defense has played better, and they have a lot of good young pieces in Petrie, Will Anderson, Jonathan Grenard, Derek Stingley, Desmond King. That Texan defense is good and talented, and they're going to be motivated from what happened last time. I just think the Browns are a little bit too good. And remember, Joe Flacco, for everybody out there, Joe Flacco has a Nick Foles type vibe to him. That the problem for Joe Flacco is the problem is he never could get into the postseason. Once you got him into the postseason, he ended up being a pretty good quarterback, or he ends up being a pretty good quarterback. 10-5, a lot of good touchdowns, a lot of good wins. And now since Joe's had a week of rest, he's got an incentive on the line here of his contract. I think the Browns pull this game out and win. Could the Texans win? Absolutely. And honestly, personally, I have my own affinity, or I have my own despise for the city of Cleveland, so the Browns going one and done, wouldn't hurt my heart at all. But I just think at the end of the day, I'm going with the better defense, the more experienced quarterback and coach tandem, and I just think that Stefanski can do enough against D'Amico's defense with the weapons he has with Flacco that I don't think Stroud could, counteract with. It should be a great game. I wouldn't be that surprised if Houston won, but go with the better experience, go with the more seasoned quarterback, and just go with the better defense, and that's the Cleveland Browns across the board. The special teams, if it comes down to it, that's going to be a key point. That might give it to Houston if it comes down to a field goal. Houston will beat Cleveland just about their special teams health is right now. So that's really Cleveland here, -2.5, and Cleveland straight up. The next game, the Kansas City Chiefs over the Miami Dolphins. This is one to where I'm taking Kansas City based on the fact of the Dolphins just are not a good team against winning teams throughout Mike McDaniel's tenure. He's now 5-10 all time over the last 2 years of Dolphins head coach when he plays a team that ends the season with a winning record. I like what Miami's done. I think that it's creative, it's flashy, but they just don't have a physicality, and they are beat up to crap. They are beat to you-know-what, with injuries to corners, to linebackers, to offensive linemen, to wide receivers, to running backs. Their entire team, for the most part, has been banged up or hurt or out, for significant parts. Their biggest pass rush has been out for the year, and that's massive. And you're playing a Chiefs team that, again, it hasn't been pretty by any means or the typical Chiefs standard to what everybody knew. But the Chiefs here at home, here's the great stat that everybody needs to know. Patrick Mahomes in his career has played 12 home games. He's only lost 2 times, and both of those times were in overtime. But he's 10-0 all time when he's at home and the game doesn't go into overtime. So he's never lost a game that has not finished in regulation. And I think this game, I feel pretty good. It's gonna be confident to end in regulation. Getting Waddle and Mostert back would help the offense. And to be fair, when they were in London or when they were in Germany back in Week 9, the Chiefs defense shut down Tua in the first half, and the Dolphins defense shut down Mahomes in the second. It was just unfortunate that Tua at the very end just could not make plays to win, to get his team into the end zone, even though he had a few opportunities to do it. But this is just one of those games that if you're going to look at this scenario, who has the better defense, who has the more experience, and do I think Patrick Mahomes can make a few more plays than Tua, even though I know Tua has the better offensive weapons across the board. I think the Chiefs win this game off of just phenomenal defense, good enough passing game from Mahomes, and a dominant running attack that kind of showed against Buffalo that, if you run the ball pretty well against the Dolphins, you can win the game fairly easily. Also, just fun fact, by the way, I don't expect the Dolphins to play well in a 0-degree night, which apparently is the temperature around Arrowhead Stadium on next Saturday night. So, should be a great game. I think the win would mean a lot more for Miami to quell a lot of the frustrations or concerns or questions. But give me Kansas City here. Mahomes has never lost in regulation. Better defense, healthier team, and I just don't think Tua responds. Last thing I want to say about the game, though. I am one of those people that when Cam Newton made that comment about game managers, okay, the one guy he was perfectly right about was Tua Tagovailoa. And I have Tua's jerseys, and so I put some money in, but if I'm the Dolphins and you lose this playoff game, I'm not giving Tua Tagovailoa a contract extension. I'm not. There has to come a point to where when people just look at quarterbacks, you have to do more than the standard. Okay, Tua Tagovailoa has enough on his resume to counter with Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert, who I think is a better pure player than Tua, ever could imagine being. Okay? Objectively, I can make the joke, but it's not true, that his brother, who played for Maryland and is somehow stupidly going for his 6th year of college, but that's a different story, could be a better thrower. He was a much better college quarterback than Tua was. Just with lesser talent, but that's the problem the Dolphins are going to have at the end of this game. If they lose, is you don't want to give Tua a $52 million extension. And I would rather just go with a veteran or try to draft another quarterback that you could develop under Mike McDaniel's system that maybe could have a higher ceiling than Tua. Because I just feel like if this is what it's going to be through 4 years of this resume and 2 with McDaniel, it's just not good enough, to my opinion, against better teams to justify a big extension. That's just a quick thought. Love to hear your thoughts in the chat or in the comment section. So, that's all I can see here. -3.5. Kansas City straight up. The next game, the Buffalo Bills over the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is one to where the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin made a choice to go with Mason Rudolph the final 3 games. It worked out incredibly well. He won all 3 games, and he's in the playoffs for the second time in 3 years with a beat-up Ben Roethlisberger and no Ben Roethlisberger. So 2 winning seasons without Ben, the post-Ben era, job well done. But it's very much how I feel like it was last year, or 2 years ago, when the Steelers got in off a decision from Brandon Staley to not go for, the tie. They would have gone for the tie in overtime, and the Raiders and Chargers would have opened the playoffs, and the Steelers made it in. Thanks to the Jags choking, the Steelers made the playoffs handling their business, but backing in, and now they're looking into a barrel of saying, okay, we could get our rear ends kicked by a Buffalo Bills team, which the last time we saw them at home, they have pretty much kicked the tar out of most teams at home. Last year when they played them, they kicked the tar out of Pittsburgh fairly easily. Okay? I'm not going to say that happens now because, again, what the Bills have done since that Cowboys game hasn't been that impressive, objectively. It's been up, it's been down, it's been up, it's been down, and they did enough thanks to a huge Deontay Hardy 99-yard punt return, which basically turned the tide of the game. It was enough to win the division, and I had the Bills winning the division at the beginning of the year, so that's one of my proud, Phoenix takes, or, proud beginning of the season takes, that I had the Buffalo Bills winning the AFC East, and they've won it for a 4th straight year. And just at the end of the day, it's something where, look, Pittsburgh has no pressure on them. Again, Pittsburgh made the playoffs. You're going to be fine with Mason Rudolph. I think he should get the start. You keep rolling with Rudolph till the end. You're not going to have TJ Watt out there. Minka Fitzpatrick's going to be dealing with an injury. I think the Bills' defense will do a fairly good enough job against Najee and Jalen. I think they should use Jalen more because Jalen's more of the fast running back, in my opinion. Because it seems like the Bills, they have a big problem with speed, not size, and Najee's more of a grinder. And if you can get through that Steeler offensive line and limit Najee, I think that that should be a tough day for Rudolph to try to throw against this Bills defense. But I'm going to take Pittsburgh plus 10 just because you don't even know what will happen with the Bills or even in the game itself. If you watch that first half for the Bills, Josh Allen committed 3 turnovers And all three of them were fairly bad. Even though you could argue Wilkins had the problem with the pressure. But that's the point, though, is that if the Steelers get turnovers, like they beat the Bills back in 2021, their first game with Trubisky. So, like this has happened before where people thought, the Bills are going to be this juggernaut and the Steelers come in, kick the tar out of them, with Ben, playing as well as probably Pickett did that year to begin with. But at the end of the day, I think with the Bills, with their confidence, with being at home, with the ability saying that we know if we win this game, we get the second home game regardless of what happens, I have the Bills winning this game because I feel like Josh Allen, that offense is going to be too much against that Pittsburgh defense, especially without no TJ Watt, and especially Minka Fitzpatrick can't play. But I'll take Pittsburgh plus 10 just because I don't know how the Bills will play, and if Josh Allen has 2 or 3 turnovers and Rudolph can capitalize on them, then that game will be much closer, nip and tuck throughout the rest of the way, which I think will help the Steelers cover the 10-point spread. So that's all like Buffalo here, straight up at Pittsburgh plus 10. The next game, the Dallas Cowboys over the Green Bay Packers. This is one to where, look, the Dallas Cowboys, sensational year. Dak, 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 4-1. Pollard at 1,000 yards. CeeDee Lamb had the most receptions for a Cowboys receiver. The defense dominated. They avenged everything that happened last year. I really like how the Cowboys have played. I think, they are in a position, they're in the best position since 1995 to end the 27-year streak of not making a conference championship game. They are going to have 2 home games in this stretch. I think that is enough to be effective. And I think, again, could Green Bay be competitive? Yes, because Green Bay is playing with house money, no pressure. And if you look at the history of this Packers-Cowboys games, the last time the Packers beat the Cowboys beat the Packers in the playoffs was back in the mid-90s. The last 2 playoff games, one in Green Bay, the other in Dallas, Dak lost. This is an opportunity for also Dak to avenge his first ever playoff game where he lost to Aaron Rodgers 34-31 off that crazy crossbar field goal from Mason Crosby. And it's just one of those things as well. The Cowboys have won 16 straight home games. It's the longest streak since the late set from 79 to 81. The Packers are coming into this wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, a little wet behind the ears. Again, like I said, the youngest team. And I think the Cowboys, can win this game. However, with them being that young, they're not going to be fazed by it. This is all new to them. They're not going to crack under the pressure. They're just going to go out there and play football. And I also think Matt LaFleur can actually manage and coach with McCarthy in a closer way than people could think. So, at the end of the day, when I look at this Packers-Cowboys game, you have, if you take CeeDee Lamb off the Dallas Cowboys, who's the best receiver on both teams, hands down, 2 through 5, 2 through 6, whatever you want to say, the Packers, I think, have better receivers or just comparable receivers, unless you want to talk about Brandon Cooks. And then the tight end, I like Musgrave, Ferguson, Hendershot. That's about the same guy. But to me, I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys here. Home field advantage, more confident of a team, and I just can't in this spot with this rookie quarterback. I don't think Jordan Love can outplay Dak Prescott, and I don't expect Dak Prescott to melt under the pressure of a Green Bay defense that, for the most part, over the last few weeks, has got burned pretty badly. The Bears scored 9 points against this defense. A couple weeks ago, the Panthers put up 30. The Panthers offense, which just this week put up a donut against the Bucs, a donut, where their defense only gave up 3 field goals against that same Packers defense 3 weeks ago. They put up 30 points, and it took a field goal from Andrews Carlson to win the game. I also feel bad for him. He missed a 41-yard field goal that could have made an 11-point game, and the rest of the game not even matter. But at the end of the day, I'm taking Dallas. Home field advantage, better quarterback, better roster. I just have more confidence that they can win this game against Love. If they lose this game, there's going to be a lot of change with Mike McCarthy. I think Dan Quinn could get hired. And, to me, I look at it saying